Start our program now, so if you can find a seat or a comfortable place to stand, that'll be great. We have some seats up here. We have some seats a few empty seats in the middle here, a few seats over here, so should be plenty of places to get seated. All right. You took some of the time in this at the beginning here to take the quick online survey. If you didn't, you can still do it after I start the presentation or after the presentations, or even in the next few days. We have posters up on the wall with tables with the QR code and the link to take the survey. It really only takes a couple minutes, so we hope you'll to give us guidance on our future efforts. All right, welcome. I'm Steve Bright, volunteer with HeatSmart Alliance and with Mass Energize and Energize Wayland. We're all volunteer groups, but this event is also, we got a lot of help from Concord Municipal Light Plant to organize this event, and they have a table over there. Janice Seti is here from CMLP. Have any Concord residents that'll be of interest to you? Let me tell you a little bit about HeatSmart Alliance. Our mission is to reduce carbon emissions by accelerating adoption of heat pumps in residences and buildings. Our approach is to educate, coach, advocate, and influence for this technology. We're all volunteers. We currently have over 25 members. HeatSmart Alliance is fairly young. We just named ourselves 2 or 3 months ago because we formed out of a group of people who HeatSmart programs. There were local HeatSmart programs in a number of towns in Massachusetts sponsored by the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. Those programs ran for 18 months, and then afterward, a lot of the former HeatSmart programs joined the HeatSmart Alliance. So we currently have members from 16 communities, and we're growing month by month, which is pretty exciting. So heating and cooling really matters in terms of energy use. Overall, residential use accounts for about 30% of energy use in New England. That's total energy use. And of that 30%, roughly 60% is for heating and cooling. It's a much bigger energy use than most people realize. In addition to that, we spend about 17% of our residential energy on hot water heating and 2% on clothes drying. And the reason I call out those particular uses, they account for 80% of home energy use, and they can be addressed by heat pumps. So right now, you're asking, what's a heat pump? Well, a heat pump is an electrically powered mechanical device that moves heat energy. Robbie, this feels like the audio is dropping out. Is that me or? Huh? Okay.
Testing, testing, testing.
All right. All right. So it moves heat energy from a cold place to a warm place. Now, you know that heat normally wants to move from warm places to cold places, so it does the opposite of that. And the fact is you already have heat pumps in your home. For sure, You may have a dehumidifier, air conditioners. Those are heat pumps. The difference we're talking about here are that they're reversible. They can do both heating and cooling. So the way it works is roughly, and this is a very rough way of explaining it, if you have a unit of electrical energy power going into the heat pump, it can take 2 units of heat energy from the outdoor air, and that energy is free, and produce 3 units of heat in the home. So the efficiency of the devices are in the range of anywhere from 250 to well over 300% efficiency. Comparing that to any conventional, the best you can do is about 100% efficiency. Today's heat pumps are not your grand pumps. They work well, and you may have heard they've made huge advances in the last 10 to 15 years. They work well in our colder New England winters. They heat efficiently down to very low outdoor temperatures, as low as minus 10 Fahrenheit in some cases, but 5 Fahrenheit is typical. They provide warm, comfortable air, and they're very reliable, similar to other electrical appliances in your home. What's in it for you? Well, year-round comfort. You get both heating and cooling. If you don't yet have central air conditioning, then the heat pump will provide that central air conditioning as well as heating. They produce a substantial reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and energy savings. The energy savings now are modest or to none for fuel oil, but considerable versus propane, and even more bigger savings if you're using electric baseboards. They also do a good job regulating the home. Heat pumps are driven by inverters that continuously regulate the output from the heat pump as opposed to turning on and off like older heating systems, so they can do a better job controlling the temperature. Many of you may be familiar and have seen what are called ductless heat pump condensers outside some of your neighbors' homes. Originally, these were zone systems. You had a single outside unit and a single inside unit that was typically a wall mount.
Can you do it without?
It's typically, can everybody hear that?
Yeah, that's great.
Sorry. It's typically a wall-mounted unit. You also have central ducted systems. The central ducted systems, the outside unit looks exactly like your central air conditioner. It's just a little bit different inside the unit. And inside the house, you could have a furnace, a gas or oil furnace with a coil on top, similar to your air conditioning, your central air conditioning, or you can have an air handler, and that's what we have a picture of here. Now, more recently, in the last 5 years or so, we have multi-zone ductless systems. You can have a single outside unit with multiple heads or wall units inside. You can have ceiling cassettes. You can have compact ducted systems, very flexible, even floor-mounted units if the wall-mounted unit doesn't fit. And just in the last couple years, we have available air handlers that attach to these ductless systems, so you in fact have mixed ductless and ducted systems, and that's what I have in my home. Which type of heat pump is right for you? It depends. For ductless mini splits, they're great for providing central air conditioning in a home that doesn't already have it and doesn't have ducting. Hydronic heat means you have hot water baseboard or radiant heat in the home without ducting. They're great for additions and problem rooms, and you get inherent zone control because the heat sources are distributed around your home. And furthermore, they can serve as a backup. Your existing system can serve as a backup in extremely cold weather. Central ducted systems are usually a lower cost solution if you already have ducting, if you have forced air heating with gas or oil fuels, then in the sense you have a ducting system in the house. So this may make more sense. You have fewer aesthetic considerations inside the house, and those can be supplemented by your existing system or by electric backup strips on really cold days. So which type of system is right for you really depends on the conditions in your house. We have 5 companies here that do installation of these systems, and talking to them or talking to some of our community heating coaches, I'm the coach for Wayland, can help point you in the right direction. This slide is maybe the most complicated one I have, comparing the operating cost for heat pumps. Now, we've used a typical 2,500 square foot home, but it really depends on the insulation quality in the home. So the exact numbers here may not match your experience. However, if you're heating with oil and you're heating, maybe your cost is $3,000 a year instead of $2,000, all of these bars would scale the same way. So the relative cost is about right here. So what you can see is that, and we have 2 sets of bars, one for Concord Municipal Light Plant, one for Eversource customers in Wayland, because the electric rates are slightly different. Concord's fortunate to have a lower electric rate than we do here in Wayland. In any case, the bars show you that the heat pump is roughly competitive with oil, may save a little money versus fuel oil. It's definitely advantageous versus propane. Propane, highly advantageous versus electric resistance, and gas right now is still the lowest cost way to heat. Now that said, there is a significant place where heat pumps stand above all the other systems, and that's in greenhouse gas emissions. And you can see here that they save about 40 to 70% over all conventional heating systems on greenhouse gas emissions. And this is based on using today's grid electricity, which by Massachusetts mandate is about 25% renewable. When we get to 100% renewable electricity, then the heat pump emissions go to 0, unlike the other systems, and really help out with reducing our carbon footprint. There are also ground source heat pumps. We have several installers here today who also install geothermal systems. They have actually superior performance to the air source systems in cold temperatures, and in fact at any temperature, because they're taking advantage of the fact that below the frost line the ground stays at 50 degrees or so. So that's a great source for cooling in the summertime and heating in the wintertime. So they have ground source systems have the lowest carbon footprint. They do require ducting in the house, so it becomes more of a challenge if the house doesn't already have ducting. It is possible though. And the aesthetics, at least outdoors, are superior because there's absolutely nothing that shows outside your house. All of the outside equipment is below grade. The installation is a little more time-consuming and complex, and it will disrupt your landscaping, so that's certainly a consideration. And they are generally higher cost, but there are also much more generous incentives for ground source heat pumps that can almost make them competitive with the air source heat pumps. Another, you saw what a big energy consumer hot water is, and to address that, there are heat pump water heaters. We have one company here that represents the distributor for heat pump water heaters, and they can save 60% overall on hot water heating. They're fast payback in terms of energy use compared to conventional electric water heaters. They do borrow some heat from the home, and they require big enough space that air can circulate around them. And they are a little bit noisier than conventional water heaters, but I've stood next to them. You might not want one next to in your bedroom closet, but certainly if it's in the basement or a utility room, it's not going to bother you. There are quite a few incentives available for heat pumps for Wayland residents. The easiest to take advantage of is Mass Save. Your installers can help you with that, and your coaches. Concord customers have to use the incentives from CMLP. There are also some programs, specialized programs from the Mass Clean Energy Center, and the Mass Department of Energy Research has an interesting program called Home MVP. We have one of their installers here today. To use that Home MVP program, you have to go through one of the small number of participating installers. And finally, there are federal tax credits available, rather modest for air source heat pumps, but quite generous for ground source heat pumps, although that program is supposed to phase out at the end of 2021. Both Mass Save and the Home MVP program also offer interest-free loans. How do you get started? Well, you've taken a great step coming here today. You're getting informed. There are a lot of web resources, and we have a handout, a one-page handout from HeatSmart Alliance here. I hope you take a copy that has links to all these resources online that we found to be useful. Getting a home energy audit to weatherize your house to the extent that makes economic sense, and getting help from a community heating coach if they're available. And again, HeatSmart Alliance, if you contact us, we'll try to line you up with a coach. For Wayland residents, I'm the guy you call. And I've helped some of you already. And we do recommend getting 2 to 3 quotes from installers. Each installer has a different perspective. I've found that you learn from each installer visiting your home. Every home is unique, and different individuals will spot different issues, have different ideas about what the best solution for your home is. And so we do recommend getting multiple quotes. So I'd like the installers to come up here, at least one person from each company to come up and introduce yourselves. Maybe we can turn on the lights again. And while you're coming up, I'll mention that HeatSmart Alliance does not promote particular brands of equipment or particular installers. We try to be neutral about those things and give people the information that allows them to make the best decision for them. But that said, we're really grateful to have all of the installers here today and spending time to educate you and inform you about this technology. So I'll start with
I'm Russell Katz. I represent A.O. Smith and State Water Heaters. I'm the manufacturer of the water heater. I don't make it myself, obviously. I have a lot of help at the factory, but it's electric water heater, a 50-gallon, a 66-gallon, and an 80-gallon, and it's 355% efficient when you're using it. It's a standalone unit, so if you need an electric water heater and you want to discuss that, right over there, and I appreciate it a lot. This is all about energy savings, as well as that terrific thing about saving carbon emissions and everything else. Thank you very much.
Okay. Dan.
I'm Dan Piscatelli from Rodenheiser Home Services. We are an installer and service provider out of Holliston, and we've been servicing this area for a long time. Been in business for about 90 years. We're an installer of all types of AC and heating systems. One of our top specialties is definitely air source heat pumps, so we look forward to talking to you guys about that. We are very well versed in all of the rebates available, so we're able to really look in and take advantage of those for you. And I would just say that any person, any homeowner, any house, there's no one-size-fits-all solution, so we're happy to have a conversation and kind of see what installers go with. So,
Bill Wenzel Heating and Air Conditioning. I've also been involved in all the Mass Save and all the HeatSmart programs. I sell geothermal heating and cooling systems. Like you said, the most efficient, a little more money. I'll be glad to talk to you. Thank you.
Sorry, I'd be curious why did you pick to go into geothermal? Why did you Need to say.
Yeah,
Why- yeah.
It's a great question, but because there are a lot of people here, I'll ask you to talk
Okay.
Yeah.
directly.
Got it.
We have a lot of time reserved here for you to have conversations as opposed to us standing here presenting to you. So we're going to give you lots of time to ask all the questions you want from the installers and the HeatSmart Alliance volunteers and so forth. And thank you for the question. All right. Joel.
So I have a question for everybody to think about. What was the greatest disaster of all time involving the ocean? Right? Greatest disaster of all time involving the ocean. So Titanic and iceberg in 1912, we all know the story. We all know the story. It went down with 1,500 people on it. And there's been lots of documentaries about it. There's been lots of movies about it. But it wasn't the worst of all time. It's not even close. It's actually a myth.
The Lusitania?
Close. But the reason I bring that up is that because it's been repeated and talked about over and over and over for decades and decades and decades, first instant reaction to the Titanic story. But it's not. And with heating and air conditioning, I deal with that every day because we constantly have all these myths. Heat pumps can't heat a house in New England. There's a myth I hear all the time. You can't build a really tightly sealed and energy efficient home because if you do, the air quality would be so bad inside that you'd all get sick. That's also a myth, right? There's lots of them. So the installers that are here tonight, we throw one up at Food Jam, are sort of in that myth solving business. So please come talk to us.
Thank you. Good.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Fuzio. I'm the owner of NCR in North Andover, and we installed air source heat pumps. We adopted this technology in my business about 20 years ago, and we've been installing air source heat pumps since 20 years ago. We've installed over 5,000 systems in homes, and we do this every day. It is a myth. It does heat homes. I can show you and prove to you in many homes that this does work. So we've got a lot of information at our table as far as what you need to make this work in your home. And like everyone says, every home is different. When we go into different homes, we can look at it one way, or another installer can look at it another way, and another installer can look at it another way. It's always a question that I get from people like, yeah, how come everybody doesn't give the same solution all the time? Because everybody looks at things differently. There's no one right solution, there's no wrong solution. Just let us come out and let the installers come out and take a look at your home and see what the best fits are. But there are a lot of myths to this technology. We've got probably about 200 case studies on our website. If you want to go look at that, it's netrinc.com. And we've got many different case studies from many different towns of how we solve problems and solutions. So feel free to take a look at that, and we'll go from there. Thank you, guys.
Okay, I think we got all of them. All right, so for everyone, we've left lots of time today to talk to installers. We have HeatSmart Alliance members here. Let's say all the HeatSmart Alliance members around the room, raise your hands. We all have name tags that look like this, so feel free to come up to us. We also have a bunch of neighbors here. Some of the HeatSmart Alliance also have systems. Many of us have systems, so it says neighbor on our name tag. But can I ask the Wayland neighbors who volunteered to attend, can you raise your hands, please? All right, great. We have quite about 4 or 5 Wayland neighbors. You can talk to them. These are folks who already have heat pumps in their homes, so you can get the lowdown on their experience with them. We have the HeatSmart Alliance one-page handout that I mentioned. And I also want to mention Mass Energize is a Wayland-based nonprofit organization that's providing tools for communities to help organize their residents to take individual sustainable actions. And we have our first site up is energizewayland.org. I encourage the Wayland residents to sign up for Energize Wayland to see a whole, in addition to green heating, other things you can do to reduce your carbon footprint. Can I ask for a show of hands, how many of you are Wayland residents? Right, it's a pretty good showing. All right, so for Wayland, we have, in addition to joining EnergizeWayland.com, we have an article at this town meeting for something called community choice aggregation. That's about, and I'm going to ask the chair of the Wayland Energy Committee, Ellen Tone, to come up and speak about that for a couple minutes.
Or less. As you know me, many of you know, I'm a very fast talker, so I'll try to slow down. Town meeting, April 7th, starts on a Sunday. We have an article from the Energy and Climate Committee, which it's Article 24. It will likely come up on the second or third night. Can't predict, right? It's Wayland Town meeting. Can't predict. Article 24, so keep your eyes out for it. What this article will do, which has passed in Lincoln, and Linda's here from Lincoln, and passed in Newton, passed in Brookline, passed in Sudbury, over 140 communities. It would allow Wayland, this vote would authorize the Board of Selectmen to begin a process to aggregate all our residential electric accounts, put them into one bundle, go out to bid and say, could we get a better energy supply with a higher percentage of renewable energy than the standard Eversource is giving us? And towns that have done this have found that they can get a greater percentage renewables, and all of them have gotten that at a lower cost than what Eversource is currently providing. That's the case for Brookline, Newton, Sudbury, Dayton, just to name a few. So yes vote on Article 24 would allow the selectmen to explore this process. There'll be multiple points for opportunity for input from residents. It'll be like a 1.5-year long process, but we can't start it without a yes vote. So come to town meeting, get your friends, come to town meeting, vote yes on Article 24. And if you're a Wayland resident, go to energize.wayland.org. Kat, I want to just mention Kat, my colleague in this in Wayland. Our goal is to have half of all residents in Wayland take some action on climate change. I think we're probably more than 40% of the way there, but we need to know what you've done and what you could do. So you can sign up, tell us what you've done, what you want to do, and that also gives us a bunch of information about what's going on in town so we can do more of these kinds of things. So if you have any questions and want to talk to us, we'll be at the table over here.
Thank you. All right, so now it's time that finishes our presentations, and I encourage you to have as many conversations as you want to have. Get all your questions answered, and make the contact so we'll let you get questions answered
Could you
later
just
on.
put the first slide back up with the survey? So if you haven't done this survey, you can take a snapshot with your phone and I'll just pull it up. We're very interested in why you're here, what you're worried about with heat pumps, what you know about them. It helps us and inform ourselves and the utilities, frankly. So, so if you haven't scanned the QR code or typed it in, please fill it out for us. Thanks.